Welcome to Soul Conversations with Z, Healing in the Raw, where we keep it raw, real, and unfiltered. I'm Zachyra Rodriguez, a trauma specialist and marriage psychotherapist, and this is a space where we dive deep into the messy, yet beautiful and often difficult parts of life. Here we challenge ourselves to face our fears and dig deeper into self-discovery. I'm no newbie. I've navigated many rocky roads and consider myself a recovered traumaholic. Life hasn't been easy, but I truly believe that everything happens for a cause greater than ourselves. Whether you're navigating with grief or grappling with trauma, healing from attachment injuries, or working on your marriage, we're here to unpack it all. No sugarcoating, just honest conversations about the struggles we face and the growth that comes from them. You matter, you are loved, even before your existence, and you're created to do great things. So grab a seat, my friend, take a long, deep breath, and let's get real together. So let's begin.
Hello, and welcome. So I have a question for you. Have you ever felt confused about where someone belongs in your life? Where exactly is it that you should place them? Maybe you guys were tight and that relationship was pretty deep. But over time, as things continued, things started to kind of shift a little bit. So maybe you even tried to hold on to that relationship, but it just feels different. It just feels so uncomfortable. It feels weird, right? Or maybe you've even had to distance yourself from someone. And you started wondering, did you do the right thing? Maybe you guys should have a conversation about it. But the truth is, many of us struggle in relationships. I struggle, your friends struggle, everyone struggles, but not because it's because people are bad, but because we place people and we give them different roles in our lives that they never meant to have had. So today I want to introduce you to something that I'm really excited about. I created this many, many years ago, but I'm now sharing it with the public, and it's called the Relationship Basket Framework. And it's a way for you to pretty much categorize your relationships without having to throw people away. Because we're so quick to do that, right? We're so quick to pretty much tell people, that's it, I'm done, right? But sometimes, right, healing in relationship is not about throwing people away or letting people go. It's all about knowing where they belong in your life. That's the bottom line, right? So think about that for a second, right? I need to figure out where they belong. So welcome to Soul Conversations with Z, Healing in the Raw. I'm Zachyra Rodriguez, your host, and we're going to be talking about that today. We're going to be talking about the relationship baskets, understanding the baskets, categorizing them a little bit, and understanding what the baskets of connection really, really are. And as we're thinking about that, we have to understand that every single human being, we all experience this from time to time. And the beauty about relationships is that we can actually have control over where they fit. And some of them are easy relationships. Some of them are very complex. And sometimes it's very, very painful. But the truth is, at the end of the day, we're all wired for connection. From the moment we are born, we seek attachment, we seek belonging, and we just seek community. So if we think about it, right, the Bible reminds us about this in Ecclesiastes 4:9-10, right? And it says that two are better than one. Because if either of them falls, the other person, right, can help the other one up. So we were never meant to do life alone. We were never to walk this life alone. And when we think about it, right, the beautiful thing about these relationships, even though they're complicated, not every single relationship was meant to serve the same purpose. And many times when we're experiencing heartbreaks, we experience disappointments, and we're even confused about these relationships. But I have to tell you guys, it's because we place people, it's our fault. We place people in roles they never meant to have carried. So I want to just pause for a second. We're giving people in our lives these roles, but in reality, they were never meant to have them. So when you think about this relationship basket framework, it really allows you to take a step back and really, really pause and understand and do kind of like a full, scan of all the various people, in your life. And it really, really helps to take a step back and be able to say, such and such is in this basket, but in reality, they don't belong. And there's various type of relationships, in our lives. So instead of us getting to a point of getting fed up with people, I want to teach you guys how we can still have those people in our lives, of course, as long as they're not, people that are harming us, people that are hurting us, you know, that's a little bit different. But today it's more about relationships that where they do not have to have the same weight, but we can learn how to place people in different baskets and in order to be able to avoid all these disappointments and confusions. So let's talk a little bit about the different baskets, okay? So there are different kind of baskets, right, in our lives. So we have the spiritual basket. That basket are people that we can call and they can actually strengthen us in their faith. They can pray for us and they walk with us spiritually. Then we have these romantic baskets, and this is pretty much an intimate partner, your spouse, your partner, and the relationship really carries like emotional intimacy, connection, commitment, vulnerability, and shared life is pretty much what I would say. Then think about the deep relationship baskets. So those are people who they know your heart, you share deep stuff with them, they know your story, they can sit with you in grief, they can celebrate your victories, your successes, and then we have the casual basket. Now, they're good people, people you enjoy, people you laugh with, but they don't really get too close, right? They don't hold the level of deepness that the other ones hold in a deeper basket. And then we have those fun baskets. I really like my fun baskets people because they're like your activity buddies, the ones you travel with, you go to events with. Maybe you do bowling. I love bowling. You laugh with them, but that's it. They don't get that part of your life as far as like the deepness of it, right? And then here's a special one. It's the holding basket. Ooh, 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 ooh. See, the holding basket, that's very powerful. These are for relationships that have shifted. So instead of cutting people off, instead of forcing them or just getting rid of them, like I don't want them in my life, because I used to do that a lot. Truth be told, I used to do that a lot. And one of the things that I started to say is that people deserve grace, right? And it's kind of like this basket is like saying like we honor what we had, but the relationship no longer serves as what it used to be. So I'm going to put you on hold for now. I know it sounds a little bit harsh, but it's not though. I'm going to give you some grace. And when I'm not emotionally, reactive, or if I'm emotionally now available, now I can take a step back and say, you know what, this is where they belong. And the problem is that people, they don't deserve, and we put them in we give them these expectations. So many of our heartbreaks, they don't come from bad people. But they do come, and I know you don't want to hear this, they come from misplaced expectations. Yes, misplaced expectations. We expected someone in this casual basket to function like someone in the deep baskets. Hello, amigo, that doesn't work that way. We expected something from someone, maybe in the fun basket, right, to carry our emotional plane. They're like, oh, dude, I'm not here for that. I'm just here to bowl with you, right? And then all of a sudden now we felt betrayed. But the reality is unspoken expectations. It's a setup for heartbreak. I'm so sorry, but it is. Because the other person never agreed to the role that we silently gave them. And then now we're blaming them. And many people spend their lives cutting people off. Again, I used to do this because I really did not allow people to get too close to me. And then we get very frustrated. But I'm just wondering, what if the real wisdom in relationships, right, is simply knowing which basket they belong in? So a few years ago, when my kids were younger, we were sitting around the table and they were just telling us about, their situations with their friendships and everything else. And one of the things that I said, what if we actually place them in baskets? And one of their friends said to me recently, maybe like about 2 years ago, they were like, Tia, do you remember what you shared with us that day? I still carry that to this day. And I was like, do you? I could not believe that they really, really held on to that. And the more and more I started to share this in therapy, people started to tell me, like, I remember this framework that you shared with me, and this has helped me tremendously. So that's why I'm bringing it to you. And I remember also a while ago, I had a friend in my life that I really loved, and we were very, very close, and we did life together. Together, we supported each other through different seasons in life. But after a while, things started to shift. Something began to change, and I couldn't understand it. The conversations were just very different and distant. And it wasn't because of betrayal. It wasn't because of conflict. It's just that life kind of pulled us apart into different directions. And at first, I really fought to keep this person in that basket. And I tried to recreate what we once had. I tried to really, really hold on to the relationship. And I tried keeping them in the same basket. And I felt that I was getting myself overwhelmed and frustrated. But the harder that I tried, it just felt so, so painful. And then one day I realized, you know what, Sashi, you need to practice what you preach and put that relationship maybe in the holding basket until you could really figure out what's going on. And some relationships, people, they're just seasonal. It doesn't mean that they were fake. It doesn't mean that they were meaningless, that they didn't mean anything. It just meant that they served their purpose, for that specific season. And I get it. It's hard because that was hard for me. But I had to learn that I didn't need to throw this person away to the side. I just need to move her into a different relationship basket. So I honored the memories that we had since our kids were growing up and everything else. But I had to respect that we did grow apart and our lives were going into different directions. And I had to release that expectation. And it was okay that it didn't look the same. And one of the healthiest things that we can learn from relationships is that not every relationship they need to end. They really don't. We still talk and everything else. But some relationships, they simply need to be just shifted. They need to be repositioned. You don't have to cut people off. You don't have to force to be close again. We simply need to learn where the relationship belongs. Because when we actually do that and we put them in the right basket, the expectation becomes so healthy and even so freeing. It's like we feel so, so free. So I'm going to ask you guys some questions. Right. So I want you to just think about this for a second. If you're driving, just keep driving, but just ask yourself this. Maybe you could pause this and then come back to it. But think about the people in your life. And I want you to ask yourself, who is in my deep relationship basket? Who is in my casual basket? Who is in my fun basket? Who is in my spiritual basket? Am I forcing someone to be in a specific basket where they no longer belong? And maybe I need to move people into this holding basket because I really don't know where they belong. And maybe we're bitter about the relationship. But the most healthiest thing that you can do is to place them in the holding basket until you're ready to pretty much move on and figure out where they belong. So if you ever felt confused about where someone belongs in your life, I guarantee the relationship basket framework, it's going to walk you through that process. And that's why I'm so excited about it. So as we're coming to a close, I want you to really think about this. And I want to remind you also of something so, so powerful, that relationships are one of the greatest gifts that God has given us. We experience it in life, but they can also be one of the greatest sources of pain. It is. So when we do not understand the relationship or the role that they play in our lives, it could be very painful and it could be very, very hard. And this framework, it really helps people categorize these relationships without having to be bitter about it, without having to, be resentful. My daughter and I, one of the baskets that we call is the olive basket because we don't like olives. So sometimes she'll be like, yeah, that person, we got to put them in the olive baskets. But relationships, they just need to be repositioned for the most part. And knowing that is just so freeing and it's just so, so helpful. So I really hope that this has helped you today. I'm so excited, as well as I had shared earlier, that we're going to have this also, the actual framework. We're going to have this on Amazon. So like that you'll be able to purchase it and go through that. And it's going to honor your history. You know, you're going to be able to appreciate the season and release the expectation that, you know, of what you once had, and understand that the disappointment often comes because of the fact that we just misplaced these expectations. And it's not due to bad intentions, but it's when we expect someone to carry a weight that they were no longer meant to hold. I'm sorry, you know, not really. So we do set ourselves up for heartbreak when we do that. But when we place them in the right baskets, oh my goodness, it's just so free. And we can begin to breathe again. It's like, right? So we are going to stop forcing people, right? We're going to stop resenting, and we're going to start understanding. Can we do that? You know, and if we can do that, you know, you can definitely then go to Amazon, get your relationship basket. We're going to actually post the link here on this podcast for purchase on Amazon. And hopefully this will be able, you know, to help you pretty much like reflect and sort through your own relationships and gain some clarity, you know, on where people really belong in your life. So if we really think about it, right, healing in relationships is not about it being perfect. You know, it's just about shifting. It's about growing. It's about us learning to know that things are for a season, you know? So I just want to encourage you today that if that's where you are, definitely I hope that this would be able to help you. And some of the most peaceful people you will ever meet are not the ones that with perfect relationships. I don't have perfect relationships, but they're the ones who have learned, yes, the ones who have learned where each relationship belongs. They understand the wisdom of seasons, right? And that was hard for me. They understand boundaries. That's a huge one. We talk about this in the framework, right? They understand the power of also letting these relationships evolve with time, you know, and without having any resentment or being bitter. And without us even knowing, sometimes healing isn't letting go of people, but it's learning where they just belong in our lives, right? And stop giving people these expectations that they were not meant to have. So I want you to take some time this week, look at the people in your life, and ask yourself, where do they belong in my baskets? Okay? Because once you have that clarity about your relationships, it's not that they're rejecting you, but it's about your wisdom. Okay? So if today's conversation was helpful, as it resonated with you, because we all have relationships in our lives, even with our animals, make sure to subscribe to Conversations with Z, Healing in the Raw. And we will continue having these real conversations about healing, about relationships, about your identity, and also with faith, about, you know, faith as well. And before we go, I'm so excited to share that we do have a women's conference coming up. We're going to have more details, so stay tuned, you know, to that. But we're going to be diving into healing. We're going to be diving into identity. We're going to be diving into breaking cycles. But more details will be coming soon. So until next time, I want you to remember this. You don't have to throw people away, right? To protect your peace. You really don't. But sometimes, yes, you simply need to change the basket where you currently have them. So I'm Zachyra Rodriguez, and this has been Soul Conversations with Z, Healing in the Raw. Thank you so much.